to be enlightened with your own veggie godmother, Alyssa Luz, on this amazing podcast called Favorite Self.
Welcome back. This is the podcast where people come to listen, get inspired, to go after their dreams, and transform the world by becoming their favorite self. I'm your host, Alyssa Luz, and I want to start off by saying thank you so much for being here and listening. Thank you for supporting our radio station, the LDM Radio. And if you're listening on any streaming platform that you prefer most, leave us a comment, leave us a like, make sure you follow us for new episode updates and all that fun stuff. We're going to get started with this new season. This season is called The 13 Lessons. And this is currently being recorded in September of 2024. And I learned these lessons and wrote them down in October of 2022. So it's been about 2 years since I've wrote down these lessons and I really began to identify with the principles that I'm about to share with you guys. And I want to get into a little bit of a backstory of why these lessons are so important. So if you've followed my journey, right, on social media, whether you've known me from YouTube, you've met me in person, or you even watched the LDM show so many years ago, and you saw my transformation in real time, right? Like I went from being 160 pounds, I had like really, really short hair at one point. I was going through a lot of mental health issues in terms of like dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, and I didn't really come out about it in that way when I was experiencing it, but it was like you can read it all over my face. Like I didn't look good. Now some people will be like, oh, but you're so beautiful regardless. Compared to how I look now, you will see the transformation that truly took place. And for those of you who don't know what I look like, you can definitely check me out on social media at Veggie Godmother. And you can maybe get a little taste of what I'm really talking about here. I lost about 60 pounds and I'm gaining weight again at this current moment in time. My lowest was 95 pounds from 160. And at my current weight, I'm at 118 pounds, but my body looks completely different. I feel way better. And a lot of you know me for advocating for eating plant-based, eating healthier. But really, the shift took place in my mind first. That's why this podcast is so important, and I really encourage people to share it with their friends and family so that we can encourage the conversation about your thinking, okay? And no, it's not just from the mental health aspect. It's really about the power of what you believe. It's about the principles that we adopt and make habits every day. And when we start to change those habits, we start to change who we are and in effect, change the world. It really does go that deep. We really are that powerful. So when these lessons were written down, these 13 lessons, I was invited to attend an open mic. And at this time, I was beginning my podcast journey. The podcast had a completely different name. It was a completely different direction I was taking. And it's because it was fairly new. It was a fairly new journey in my life that I was going through. So as I mentioned, I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues. I was in a really unhealthy, intimate relationship. I had even did like a domestic violence series in 2023. Talking a little bit about that experience, and that series was put up on TikTok, so you actually have to like follow me and I have to follow you back for you to see it. I do maybe possibly want to touch on it again in a healthier way, because some of those videos did come from a place of spite, and the way you talk about other people really reflects yourself. So I wanted to approach it from a more level-headed space, and I've healed so much from that time in my life, and in this point in time where I created these 13 lessons, and it wasn't me creating these lessons. These were me identifying the lessons that I learned from experiencing all that hardship and really understanding that you have to grow throughout life. You can't stay doing the same things all the time, because if you stay doing the same things, you're going to stay in the same place in life. You're going to stay getting the same things you always got. And I didn't really like who I was. I talked about this in season 1, how I had figured out that I didn't hate other people, but I genuinely hated myself. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like the things I was doing. I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like how I felt. It was just a pure feeling of disgust, and it really made me want to change. And through that change, I found many different communities that I really identified with. One of the biggest ones that I advocate for to this day is I'm Surviving Vegan. That's why I advocate for, plant-based eating, healthy eating, holistic wellness in itself, and then some other groups along the way that I may share in the future. So at this open mic, I was invited to speak, but I didn't really have anything to speak about. So I was like, you know what? I'm a completely different person now. Like, I can talk about so much. Like, I've learned so much. So I quickly jotted down the top 13 lessons that really changed my perspective on how I behave. And I went up and I did this off the whim, a presentation of these 13 lessons and like kind of a bullet point presentation, because I only had like 5 minutes on the mic, and everyone loved it, which it was so like, a very intuitive kind of off the whim performance. And I loved it too, because it felt really liberating to get up and use my voice and talk about my personal experiences. Even if it was a short amount of time, it was just finally coming to terms with and identifying the things in my life that have helped me be a better person. So this season is brought to you by that moment in time, really sharing and getting into the details of these lessons. And this episode is going to be all about lesson number 1. And that lesson, as I wrote down verbatim that day, is you are me. And this lesson is a really, really important one to understand, especially if you want to have any kind of success in life, whether it's financial success, whether it's relationship success, like either an intimate relationship or just good relationships with your family members or relationships with friends, right? Coworkers, just any kind of relationship. If you want success in that area, financial success is really important too, like to understand this lesson, because you have to understand money only comes from other people. Money doesn't grow on trees, right? As some of our parents have always told us. Money doesn't, sprout from the ground. You can't plant a seed and then, wow, money grows. You can't get money from animals. Maybe you could sell an animal and then you get money, but you have to sell it to another person. So money only comes from other people. Therefore, the better your relationships, the more financial success you'll have. This is just the way the world works, okay? And including understanding success within yourself, whether it's, getting through mental health issues, overcoming systemic issues, whether it's systemic racism or, there's a lot of social ideas that are really trying to penetrate the minds of our young people. And once they understand that we are all the same, whether it's, like spiritually they understand that or just like, on a cognitive, logical level, they understand that, then we can really transform the atmosphere of where we stand today in society. Okay, I know a lot of people like to talk about race. They like to talk about gender. They like to talk about all the things that make us quote unquote different. But if you were to scrape away the skin, scrape away the organs, scrape away, every single part of our physical being, you would find bones, blood, and flesh, and we all have it. Not only that, but you'll find a mind. Now, some of these minds contain different information, but we all have a mind, and we're all connected to one mind. Now, some people will kind of get a little skeptical here, and they'll start to, maybe misconstrue and misunderstand this concept because of their own background, right? So with one of these ideas comes religion. And of course, with when you follow any religion, you are taught about God. And then when you try and bring these religions together, people will have their own personal ideologies about what God is like and what the spiritual principles are to, understand God. But at the end of the day, the agreed upon rule here is we all come from one creator. That's a general statement that I think majority of people can agree with and digest. And you could get into the details, but the details really don't matter in the everyday sense of things. Because once you understand that you are me, you move way differently. When you really, really understand that concept, you are me. Because now you may go about treating someone differently just because you're not looking at that person as separate from yourself. You're looking at a mirror now. You're looking at that is a person just like me. They bleed just like me. They breathe just like me. They have feelings just like me. They have their own life just like me. They have their own wants and desires just like me. They experience pain just like me. They experience joy and love just like me. And at this point, we can remove the gender, we can remove the race, we can remove the age, we can remove, the social status, we could remove the education level, we could remove all these things that, media and society tries to nitpick and make us identify with to show us why we're all so different and unique. Like, we're really not that unique, guys. We're all the same. We all are human beings. We all just want to be loved and appreciated and heard and understood. And it's really important for each one of us to take that initiative and lead with a heart of compassion, a love and understanding for the other person, right? For our brother and sister. Even though we may not have the same parents biologically, we do have one creator that made us all. And when we really, genuinely internalize this idea, your life transforms within an instant. Because now you don't judge other people. Judgment really comes from a place of misunderstanding. It comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of being uncomfortable. And it's like, how can you be uncomfortable with yourself, right? If you start looking at someone as you, then you kind of want to know more about them. You kind of want to understand them. You kind of want to show them a little bit more kindness. You want to show them a little bit more just love. Just really showing that person that, hey, I know you've experienced pain. I know maybe you want something better for your life. Let's see how we could do this together. And then it invites a sense of unity into the space. It invites a sense of wanting to prosper and push each other up, right? There was a point in history where people really did work together. And I feel like there was a shift at some point in time where it was no longer about working together, but competing with each other. And it's like, how could you compete against yourself? Like, like, why would you want only one person to win and the other person to lose? It's like both people will come out losing. There's a book, it's called The Art of War. And one of the rules of war is that in battle, both people lose. Even the winner loses. They experience some kind of pain, some kind of damage. And yeah, there may be someone who experiences more pain and damage than the other person, but both people are losing. The true winner is the person who doesn't get into war at all. Okay? And when we learn to really work together and, just completely separate from the things of this world, that's like a spiritual principle of like, don't be conformed to the ideas of this world, instead renew your mind, right? And that renewing of the mind comes with really spending time with yourself, spending time with whatever presence you identify as our creator. Because once you understand that you have to develop a relationship with the creator, you're kind of working on yourself in a really powerful way, right? A lot of people think working on themselves includes going to the gym, going to school, getting an education, and, maybe making more money to improve their physical appearance. But really, all the work comes from understanding yourself better, about how you think, about the things that make you feel good, about the things that you want. And from there, you can improve because now you identify with all these needs that you have internally, right? You need to feel love, you need to feel joy, you need to feel peace. And you understand other people want those things too. So it makes working together much easier. It makes having understanding for others much easier. And when we reach that point in time, that people are no longer feeling the need to be in competition with each other, and they feel that they are just wanting to see each other prosper, the entire world will prosper. There has to be a want and a desire for these things to happen. And when you first understand to appreciate each other, when you first understand to really want the best for one another, that is when we will have true prosperity in the world. And right now, I believe in each one of us to make that happen. I really, really do. Because we do have people that are having these conversations. We do have people that are realizing these things. And, by spending more time with each other and by really communicating with an open mind and being willing to listen to the other person's perspective and to the other person's need, we can lend each other a helping hand. Because I always say, we're all a piece of a puzzle. There's one gigantic puzzle that makes up the world as we know it. And each of us have to play a part in that puzzle. If not, the puzzle will be incomplete. And when we each understand that we have to do the work individually, we have to each take initiative and be the leaders in our own lives, there will be a trickle-down effect. We can't just expect the other person to do all the work and then they'll tell us how to do it. Of course, learn from one another. This is why this podcast exists. We want to share with you the importance of working on yourself and even giving practical tools on how to do it. But if you don't take the initiative after listening to this and actually applying what you're taught, then it's like knowledge wasted. There's a saying that goes, to know and not to do is not to know. When you truly know something, not just know about something, that's when true mastery and true change happens. Because now you're acting from a place of confidence and from a place of understanding. And therefore, you don't have no doubts or no confusion about, well, am I going to get this? Is this going to work out? You already know in your heart and in your soul that is going to work because you do it automatically. You take the initiative without having to worry about the other person. You do the work within yourself so you can see change all around you. And that is what we're trying to do here. All right. So I want to thank you guys one more time so much for being here, spending your time listening to this podcast. And if you have any questions or any comments, please send us an email at favselfpod@gmail.com. That's fave, F-A-V, self, pod, P-O-D, @gmail.com. And we'll create an episode especially for you, give you a shout out. You can also remain anonymous if that's what you want to do. And you guys can check in on the next episode. You can listen live on the LDM radio every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or, listen to the reruns same time every day of the week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the LDM radio. You can visit at ldmradio.com or listen on your favorite streaming platforms. Definitely give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think I also have TikTok. Our handle is @intentionsoflight. because we really do have the intention, right? The mission and the purpose and the desire to show people the truth, show people the illumination and the transformation that can happen when they do the work and they truly strive to be a better person. So my name is Alyssa Luce. Thank you so much once again, and have a great rest of your day.